So within Google Classroom, yours always looks a little bit different than mine, teacher-student, but there should be a link that says Fahrenheit 451 essay template, and then it has your last name attached to it, so that when you open it up here you'll have your name with it. Should look like that document up there, but if you go into, maybe click on research paper. Now again, yours is going to look different than mine, but if you click on the research paper, maybe that's where it has your individualized file. Yeah. So it looks like the way to get to it would be from Google Classroom, hit the Fahrenheit 451 research paper link up here at the top. Once you click on that, do you have to click on another link then to open up the document? Okay. Then it'll be opening up your file that'll still look like this, but it'll have your name up at the top. You talk way too fast for me to pick up on anything that you just said.
Did you say open up the one that says research?
So you hit the research paper, and then I think that opens up, that gives you access to the ones that have your name with it. All right, now, as I type things, it's not going to affect yours because we have different copies, but this is the template that we're looking at. So for your heading, where it says last name, go and put your last name just so that's squared away. And then you can put in your name for student name. I'll pretend that I'm Adam, I guess.
Yep. Adam Brown? Aw.
Luke.
You can't say that.
Notice that your date is April the 1st, 2018. I put that in there. Jaquez, head up, please. I put that in there so that you know what your due date for the paper would be. Now, you might be submitting it before April the 1st, and again, that's not your April Fool's Day joke, but at least you know by then that's when it would need to be submitted. The other thing that you would want to do is where I have a research topic within brackets, you could highlight that and put in what is the issue that you are taking a look at. So some of you might be doing dependency with technology. Others might be doing conformity in schools, but you would simply just want to kind of type in what your overall subject matter is. All right?
Are we going to do it how we used to, where you revise each one of them?
Yes. So George's question, are we going to be doing this the same way we did the others so far as the paragraphs? Pretty much yes. Now, here's the thing. The research paper, whereas when we were doing Oedipus Rex or Metamorphosis, we were all pretty much doing, we had different evidence, but our arguments were all very similar. We're all doing a research paper, but the shape of it is probably going to vary a lot more from person to person. So the way that Matt goes about his could be different from what you do or Zelena does. So Devin seemed excited that we got a template. At the same time, there might be some things that we decide, you know what, for Angelina, we're going to tweak this a little bit because it works better with her facts. Jillian, even though it says this, let's kind of change it a little bit if we come across any issues, just because there's so many different variables that are taking place. But as you scroll through, you'll see that I still have stuff for introduction, body paragraph, things of that nature. But it's going to require a little bit more discipline and probably a little bit more energy on your part to make sure you're keeping up with it than I would say the last one did. Not yet. What I will tend to do though, George, is the idea on Monday, you would get through the introduction. The idea on Tuesday, you would get through the first body paragraph. I'm going to put the grades in every other day. So maybe the introduction takes a little bit longer. You need to finish it off at home. That's fine. I won't put it in until after the second paragraph anyway, so that you can kind of start to get your pace going a little bit. All right. What you want to do then is just scroll all the way down the very bottom. So the last thing you'll see is clincher statement. It says final sounding sentence. Wherever your cursor is, go to then.
Is this 7 pages?
Oh, yeah.
The template is. That doesn't mean your essay is going to be. I don't think your essay is going to be 7 pages.
Thank God.
To that one or to the
Go underneath the one.
Go underneath.
Go to insert, and then down towards the bottom it says break. We're going to do a page break. So it's going to create page number 8. And it should look like that. So what I did, and here you can follow along, I got my cursor below the 1. I went to insert, scrolled down on insert to where it says break, and then I hit page break. I think if you hit control and enter, it'll do a page break for you as well, but this way it should be surefire. So you should have a new blank page at the bottom of your essay.
Oh yeah, I got that.
You good? Okay. Go back then to Google Docs, and we're going to open up NoodleBib at this point. We're going to put in our works cited page.
Wait,
Noodle Tools.
oh, I was about to say.
Website's Noodle Tools. I call it NoodleBib.
Why?
It used to be NoodleBib, and then they switched it to like Noodle Tools.
Holbert.
So I'm just going into my project for Fahrenheit 451, right where I have all my sources. So I would be on a page that would look something like this then.
Well, we don't use all these, so how are we gonna get rid of them? We don't use
Good question. What I don't want you to do is some folks will go to where the option button is, and there is a thing that lets you delete a source. Don't do that. Because if you delete a source that you're pretty sure you're not going to use, but then something happens at the last minute, you go to use a note card that says source number 6, and you deleted source number 6, you're out of luck at that point. So here's what we are going to do. We're going to keep all of our sources. Again, actually no, ours should look pretty much the same. You see where there's the create new citation button, that green one. We're going to the end of that row, pretty much mid-page where it says print export. We are going to print export, not to Word, but to Google Docs. So it's like the third option, right in the middle. Ben, you good?
Wait, say that again? Nope.
So about middle of the page, you see a drop-down menu that says print export. It's in that same row as create new citation, copy, delete, all those things. I'm going to the print export, and I'm going to the Google Docs option. And I'm just going to click on that.
We copy and paste it.
Now for me, I'm getting a pop-up block window. I don't know if any of you are too.
Wait, mine doesn't say that. It just says transport. So. I did.
Is anyone getting it blocked? Okay. And then if you haven't already signed in, sign in.
Oh my gosh. It's already like.
I just did.
Do I press allow?
Is that okay?
No.
Do I press allow?
Yes, for the pop-ups.
So I don't have to do anything to this? It looks good?
Yeah, why can't
Well,
you
hold
just-
on,
why can't you
hold
copy
on.
and paste it?
I mean, this looks.
Oh, you mean copy and paste from here?
Yeah, like
Yes.
I went from the, yeah, okay.
No, what sometimes folks will do, sorry Jillian, it'd be my mistake. Sometimes people will go from here and copy and paste,
Yeah, no,
and that's gonna mess up, the formatting, yes.
Um,
Once it opens up, Tommy, I'll be there in a second. Once it opens up this setup where you see works cited, then you can hit Control A. Oops.
Wait, do we have to highlight it?
Will highlight everything. Control A will highlight. Control C will copy. Now I'm going to that page 8 that I created, putting my cursor on the first page, and if I do Control V, it'll paste them in.
Mine's blocked.
Okay. I want to do one more.
Again? Okay.
All right, now, on your, and if you haven't done this yet, you'll have to kind of go back and look through it. But yesterday, on your note, on your packet, you were writing down the source numbers of the cards that of the sources that you were going to use. Again, I don't want you to delete any.
It's good.
But if, say, source number 2 is one that I don't think I'm going to use, all I am going to do is highlight it, and then I'm going to change the font color, or I'm going to actually I'll probably do a highlight here that lets me know I don't plan on using this source. So that when I'm completely done, if I have any highlighted sources, that's my reminder that I want to delete it. However, if I end up using a source that I didn't think I was going to use, I'm going to keep source number 2. I can then unhighlight it, and it's going to be on my works cited page. I don't want to delete sources at this point because I think there's a good chance there's probably going to be some sources that you're going to end up using that you would otherwise delete. So George, once you finish highlighting your sources you're not going to use, by all means go ahead to the restroom. So just look through your sources. You wrote down your source numbers. If you did not write down your source numbers yet, then your next step is going to be kind of getting out your note cards to double check which sources do you plan on using. It looks like for at least this one with the book, it added an annotation where I have the call number, which it's kind of making as another source. If it's kind of creating that as a separate line, that you can go ahead and delete because you're not going to need it for anything. But don't delete your source numbers because you certainly want to know which source you're using.
I was just about to ask that, and there are like some spaces in between, like spaces in between some of my whatever you call it, sources. Like in between this one, there's a space, and this one, there's a space, but like in between the rest of them, there is a space.
Just delete the space. I don't know if there's space. It might just be something with the yeah, and it takes care of it.
Oh, it's your dog.
Yeah, thanks.
Did you go see what this one you played yesterday? Was it good? Good.
You're good, so.
So, were you able to?
Yep. And
Okay, so did you copy and paste those in?
Yep. And what's it called?
And then you started highlighting them. Okay, so you want to go through now and start highlighting the ones that, did you like write down the numbers of the ones you're going to use for sure?
No.
Okay, so you're going to want to figure out which note cards are you using, and if there's like sources that you're not going to use, highlight them so that you remind yourself to delete
Do you
them.
see this? I went in. I did it. Nothing. This is the same that happens. I did this. Miss Miller tried to me. She said she doesn't know.
What do you mean doesn't know?
Like she doesn't know what happened. I hit that. And then it would load. And then go to the refresh side.
You mean to access the stuff?
Yeah.
Alright, so that's going to be probably something you guys just got to do it on.
See, like.
Because it's something with the web filter here, I think it's doing. If it looks like some of you, and it's not your fault
It's
by any
three
means,
sources.
if you're getting extra spaces in between your sources, and I don't know if it's happening with the book sources more than others or what, but if you have extra spaces, you can just put the cursor at the front of the one source and just backspace it to get rid of spaces. I know Luke was having it. Tyler, looked like you had some spaces with yours.
Yeah.
It's just something I think with the annotation formatting that's doing it. It's not that you did anything wrong, but when it's all said and done, you don't want to have those spaces there.
Why is yours highlighted?
So I'm highlighting ones that I don't plan on using.
So I have to get this up.
Right. Because here's the thing. If you cite a source in your paper, it has to be on the Works Cited page. If there's a source on your Works Cited page, it needs to be cited in the paper. So I'm going to highlight the ones that I'm pretty sure I'm not going to use. If I discover that I'm going to use it, I can go unhighlight it. When I'm done with my essay, if I ended up not using the Leyenbauer-Baum source, since it's highlighted, I can remind myself that I need to delete it, and then I'll be okay. Remember, you need to have Fahrenheit, so don't highlight that one. You need to have at least one book, and then you would have a grand total of 6 sources total.
Source 10. Source 10 is good. I definitely don't know I have 6.
Hold on.
Can we only
George is
have
out.
6?
Pardon?
Can we only have 6?
No, you can have more than 6.
Okay, because I have like 13.
That's fine. 6 is the minimum that you would have to have. But if you have, like let's say you end up having 13, you'll have to have 13 different
Yeah.
citations in your paper. So, which is fine. That's not an issue.
Site
Just so you know that it's there.
black.
Then you're good.
Come here.
What we then did, and then figuring out which source
I'm scared.
Adam.
Adam.
Here. That is father's.
Holy.
What's up, bro?
Where have you been?
I had the flu.
Really?
Since like Saturday.
Oh my god.
About to take the L in chemistry.
Oh god.
You know how much work you're gonna come? It's gonna be like this. It's definitely gonna be like that.
I've never seen
You need this.
You've missed a lot in Canada.
Oh, I fucking bad. I'm not even worried about it, honestly.
Shell's stuff this weekend. We can trade again.
Alright.
Mr. Kane, do you recommend quotes or
All right, now.
what do you recommend?
Well, this is what we're going to talk about. Now, so
I'll show Adam how to do
some
this.
of you are going to be at different spots. Like Luke, you're still going to be trying to figure out which sources you're using and all that kind of stuff. Couple things here about how your sources work. Generally, in the past, anytime you have cited something, you've been putting the author's last name and a page number. For Fahrenheit 451, that would be the same thing. Remember, your citation would be going in parentheses. If you have sources that have author's last name, so I'm not counting Bradbury, but here I have like Eddinghoff or Leyenbauer, Plesman, Whitting. If I cite anything from those sources, what do I need to put in parentheses? It's just going to be their last name. So basically, anytime you use a parenthetical documentation, you're just citing the first part of a source. And 95% of the time, that's probably going to be an author's last name. Notice, though, and you might have some sources like this, you might not. I have a source, that's my third one right here, fake news, Hertz Trust in Media, mainstream outlets fare better, in a poll. I don't have an author for it. When I go to cite that source, I have to use my article title, because that lets me know which source I'm using. You're not, capital N, capital O, capital T, you're not writing in source numbers, you're not putting in URL addresses or anything like that. It's either an author's name and a page number if available, or the title. Now, what's a concern about this one? It is a really long title. If you have a lengthy title like this, you can take the first few words. For this one, I would take fake news Hertz Trust. And that's what I would end up putting in my citation. So when I was typing it, within my parenthesis, I have fake news Hertz Trust. That lets me know what the article is. Now, how is my article formatted, though, on my WorksCited page? The title was surrounded by what kind of punctuation? What's in front of fake news? I have quotation marks. So within my citation, I have to do the same thing. Some of you might have a book title that does not have an author. If that's the case, you would have the book title, but it would be italicized with the page number as opposed to an author.
How do we do the page number? Put it in next to the.
So if you have a page number, like, you know, when you use Fahrenheit 451, all of us are going to be going Bradbury, and then I'm making up what the page number would be, you know, page 39. Tommy, you're asking about quotes. Whether I quote from Ray Bradbury on page 39 or I just use an example that happened from Bradbury on 39, I still have to cite it no matter what. If it is on a note card and you are using that note card in your essay, it must be cited. So, and I'm making up this number, Alex ends up using 27 note cards in his paper. That means he will have 27 citations in his paper. Adam ends up using 48 note cards in his paper. Adam is going to have 48 note cards in, or 48 citations in his paper. It's going to, and this is where it varies so much. I think most of us are probably going to be in that 20 to 25, maybe 30 range. You don't want to have 15 note cards in a paragraph, because that means you're basically just going to start listing paragraph after, like note card after note card after note card. You are, if you take a look in your essay map, within your introduction, the only place that you might use a citation note card would be in your attention grabber if you have some kind of statistic or fact that you want to start off with. The biggest mistake that I think people make when they are doing research papers is they forget to argue their own point. It's Angelina's essay. It's Zach's essay. It's Ben's essay. Their points come across. The sources, the note cards, are meant to help your argument. They're not meant to solely be your argument. My guess is that's going to be the most common feedback that I end up putting up on the paragraphs would be, Tommy, don't forget to argue your point. Zelena, don't forget to argue your own point. Don't simply just rely on the note cards to do it. But, Tommy, to how many note cards you're going to use, as you get to your body paragraphs, and so like on page 2 is where it says body paragraph number 1, it says support detail, 5 to 7 sentences, detailed background information about the significance of your topic or issue. I think within here is where some folks could have 2 or 3 note cards for each part. As you start going into your body paragraphs, you might only end up having like 15 note cards.
I have 19.
There's not a set number that's going to be right or wrong. It's just going to kind of unfold as you go through. I think you should have more than 6. You're not going to have like 1 note card for each source, but yeah, if you're in that, like even 15 to 20 could certainly end up being enough. One of the things that is going to be a little bit different, and it's going to happen within the body paragraphs, I have some places where it says make sure you have at least 1 complex sentence, 1 compound sentence. I'm not doing the thing that we did with the Martine essay where I'm spelling out how every sentence has to be simple, compound, complex, but I do want you in some places to make sure you do have a compound sentence or a complex. Like within your introduction in the background, at least 1 sentence must be a compound or a complex sentence. It's up to you to pick the sentence. It's up to you to pick up whether you want it to be compound or complex, but I want to be able to vary that sentence structure a little bit. Anytime I do have you where I want you to have a simple or a compound, it's mentioned that please highlight it in bold. So there are a few more directions with each paragraph than we might have had before. Still trying to give you personal freedom to write it as you see fit, but there are certainly some guidelines that we want you to stay true with. On Monday, the plan would be writing your introduction. So what would be happening in your introduction is you're going to come up with 2 to 4 sentences about something that's going to kind of initialize the relevance of the point of your argument. You're going to give us some general background about your topic. You're not going to be using note cards. You're just going to be typing about dependency on technology, nuclear weapons, gun control, things like that. But your thesis statement, your position statement, which is going to be the last part, it's at the bottom of page 1, this is where you are going to write a direct statement. Schools must do more to prevent dependency upon technology. Governments should no longer censor media content, web content. You need to make sure you do have a position statement that is going to highlight, that's going to let us know what your main argument is. It's not going to be I think, I feel, but you want to write it as a direct statement. So still stay away from the first person pronouns and all that kind of stuff as we go through with it. Any questions, concerns at this point? All right. If you have not gone through your note cards yet to figure out which ones you are going to use, make sure you do that so you can start to highlight your sources. Again, you're highlighting the ones that you don't think you are going to use so that you have a reminder to delete them when you're done. If you do end up using the sources, then you can unhighlight them and you'll be fine. If you are good with that, you have all your citations, you know what your sources are going to be, I would start taking a look at your introduction background where you can kind of begin to write about what is the general idea and the topic. Nothing paragraph-wise is due at the end of the period today. We're not going to be looking for introduction until Monday, but getting started is always the hardest step, I think, with any kind of writing. So we still got about 15 minutes. I try to get started a little bit with some ideas. I can walk around and let you know, what looks good or maybe where some changes would be. Your position statement, a lot of you already wrote that on your brainstorming topic sheet. So that would be a statement that you could lift, maybe make some edits to, but you already have a pretty good idea as to what you want that position statement to be because you've already written it multiple times. Adam, I can talk to you then, obviously, since it's been a while.
I thought you were done.
No? Okay, you can head out.